Hey, buddies. How we doing? It's your old pal Boom. How's summer? You doing okay? Doing good? Welcome to Barnburner, a special edition of Barnburner. You know, we're doing these, it's the summer, hey, we're putting a lot of time and effort into research and development for the show. Upcoming another great year, I'm sure, of Barnburner, and this is an important time to kind of refuel and re-energize for another big hockey season. Bet365, great partners of ours, of course, presenting sponsor of Barnburner. Get the app, download it, be 19 years of age and be respectful and, you know, what do they call it? Responsible, I suppose, is the best way to put it, with Bet365. Great show for you today. Devan Dubnyk, he's got a great story. It's one of those ones, and I say it during the course of the interview, you could write a book about it. You weren't going to believe it. Kind of left for dead, and then all of a sudden, back on top. Cool story. It's a long one, and we get into it today on a special edition of Barnburner as we sit down one-on-one with Devan Dubnyk. Now, we had you on, I guess it was during the playoffs, and I kind of threw it by. So born in Regina, but grew up in Calgary. When people ask you where are you from, what's the answer?
I say Calgary.
It's Calgary? When
did
you move to Calgary?
Moved to Calgary when I was like 10.
Yeah. And then
So I was born in Regina. We lived in Toronto, Winnipeg, Vancouver, all before Calgary.
Crazy. What was Dad doing?
He worked for IBM, so he was just getting promoted and transferred over and over. And back then you had to move. There was no internet or anything, so you had to go
Zoom.
To the spot. No.
Yeah, tough to do. What do you remember? You're not on the couch, but what do you remember that as a kid? Because it'd be with that much moving, you're not making tons of long-time friends.
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, things are different now with the ability to stay in touch. I didn't stay in touch with anybody until when we lived in Vancouver. It was like 2nd grade to 5th grade. So I had some really good friends there, and I loved living there. And so that was the toughest move, was Vancouver to Calgary. Yeah. And there was, a short time that you make a couple long distance phone calls and talk on the phone for 5 or 10 minutes with people. But I mean, after like a month or two, that kind of goes away. And then it was actually interesting when after I was in Calgary, and then when I was playing in Camloops and we would play in Vancouver, this was when like Facebook and everything was starting to become a thing. So I actually got in touch with some of my friends from like 5th grade. And a few of them came to one of the games in Vancouver, and I saw them afterwards. So nice. That was kind of cool.
So on different lens we look through once we're parents ourselves. You don't really think about it then. It's we're just moving a lot. You think now, parents, it must have been some pressure. Be tough to be thinking we're moving these kids around. This is tough. The feel for your dad in a different way looking back now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even now I think about that moving and how hard it would be, but then you realize that with the kids' ages, like, they adjust, and they'd be able to be in communication more now with their friends, but even they don't even need that. I'm not saying you move because you want to, or it's like if it happens though, the kids they'll adjust, they'll meet new friends. It's something that a lot of people have to do.
So when did you start playing hockey or goal? I guess because that would be one thing. It'll get you, if you get on a team in a hurry, you see a lot of those guys, you can make some friend groups pretty quickly.
Yeah, that was always an easy part for me. I never had a tough time is meeting new people. I think that was a big part of moving around as well, is learning how to meet new people and different stuff. And I think that was a good skill that I learned as a young kid.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I started playing hockey like anybody, 3-4 years old. And I started playing goal my last year that I was in, second last year that I was in Vancouver. So I started where it was just, I started novice, and it was just, there were no tryouts or anything. You just got put on a team with whoever and played. And then the next year was the first year of tryout hockey, was first year Adam. And then so I moved to Calgary, was my second year of Adam hockey. And the hockey in Calgary was really good. I played for Crowchild, and so it's really interesting listening now that I have kids that are going into minor hockey and seeing how it all works. And obviously it's different now, but listening to my dad now explain like what he did for me when we moved to Calgary and how he went down and he made sure that everybody at the association knew that there was a new kid coming in and he was a good goalie, and like pay attention to him and not just like randomly showing up at tryouts. which is what I thought happened.
Yeah.
It's funny to listen, and them having to like sit out early in the morning to just register for it and all this stuff. And
I know.
crazy
We
the
live it
amount of
now.
stuff that he went through. Yeah. And now that I'm grown up and have kids and hearing all the stuff he did is pretty crazy.
Yeah. What do you remember? Was there a goalie that, because we talk about it here when Kiprasov was doing his thing, boy, there's a lot of kid goalies, and then it kind of goes away for a while. Not many kid goalies. Was it the gear, somebody's mask? Was there somebody that you remember gravitating towards that made you want to be a goalie?
Not entirely. The gear was a big part of it. I was always defensively minded, and my dad was a goalie. He played in junior, Crow's Nest Pass. But that wasn't why, like when people are like, oh, your dad was a goalie, that's probably why you want to be a goalie. And it wasn't really. I had a friend that was a goalie. I liked subbing as a goalie. But the gear kind of fascinated me, getting to put on the equipment. And I just decided one summer that I wanted to be a goalie. And I told my dad I was going to be goalie next year. And he said, absolutely not. There's zero chance you're playing goalie. And so I argued with him back and forth a little bit. And then he said, fine, you can play half the games as a goalie. And so I started, and I wasn't very good at all when I started. But I learned really quickly, and I ended up playing every game that year except for one. And then the following year was tryouts. But I mean, at the time, there wasn't like a specific person that was the reason I started playing goalie. Once I did start playing, I was always a big fan of Curtis Joseph. He was in Edmonton and then Toronto, and my brother was a big Leafs fan, so I was forced to cheer for Toronto for my safety. But Cujo was always one of my favorites. Roberto Luongo, when I started to get older, being a tall guy, he was kind of a guy that I like to watch, and he was super athletic as well. Kind of somebody who I wanted to play like. And then when I was a young goalie in Calgary, obviously can't play like him, but Freddie Brathwaite was my favorite goalie at the time, because I was younger and I had opportunity to meet him. I played minor hockey with Troy Preston, who was the assistant coach at the time. Was Rich Preston was his dad, and so I had a couple opportunities to go to pregame skate, and I got to meet Freddie. And if anybody that knows Freddie, is like the nicest guy in the world. So kind of fell in love with watching him, and couldn't emulate my game around him at all, but he was still my favorite guy to watch. And funny story with him, like a roundabout full circle thing, when we were at an auction, it was around Christmas time, and there was this Freddie Brathwaite thing in the auction. I think it was it wasn't a signed jersey and picture. And then my parents surprised me with it for Christmas. They told me, obviously I went to bed early. They didn't win the auction. Obviously they did. I got it for Christmas. And then when Rich got fired from Calgary, he had told me he'd get me a Freddie Brathwaite stick signed, and then he got fired, and I was like, oh, I'm sure he's got more important things going on. Whatever. I'm not going to get the stick. Well, sure enough, he pulled up to the front of the house, and he had this brand new Freddie Brathwaite stick signed for me. And I ended up doing a summer camp in Kelowna when I was playing for Minnesota, and Freddie was at the camp helping as one of the coaches at the camp. And so I'm telling him this, and I had met him before, and I told him he was my favorite goalie growing up, and he was kind of like, yeah, right. Like, I'm sure I was. I'm like, no, dude, I'm serious. I got your jersey, I got your picture, I got your stick, I got all this stuff signed. And he's like, okay. And so then we were at this camp, and I was like, Freddie, I have the stick. Like, I'm going to bring you the stick. So I think I was 33 or 34 years old. Yeah. And I got to brought the stick to the rink. So the stick that he had signed for me when I was like 13 or 14, he personalized to me, and then I signed a stick for him, and we got a picture together. So it was kind of a cool little full circle moment.
It is very cool. It's those types of things. And I don't think it's always the case, but you want to keep a piece of that in your hard drive. And remember, when you're meeting some kids, and you're because it could be a lot, you're signing autographs, I would imagine, as a hockey player. It's like, this kid here his life might go a certain way because of who I am or how I handle this kid at this moment. And Freddie, like you say, one of the best guys ever.
Yeah, it's true. Just little moments. And You hear about, gosh, I can't remember. I want to say, no, that's not going to be it. I wanted to say it was Jake Ottinger, but I don't know if it was. But somebody told me that they were, and it made me feel so old.
Yeah.
Told me that they
You
stood
were their
beside
guy?
me on the ice. No, it wasn't Ottinger because it was in Edmonton. Gosh, this is going to bother me. Anyway, somebody told me that is now a pro goalie told me that they stood beside me when they were like 10 years old. And I was like, oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah.
And they're just like, yeah, I never forgot it. You were so nice. And like, you're about to play a game, so you don't realize that, but there's so many little things where you don't realize what that is to a kid and how much they'll remember it. And I mean, all this stuff with Freddie, with just, getting his jersey and the stick and all this stuff and what it meant to me. And I imagine now, like Rich probably just handed him a stick, said, hey, can you sign this for me at the rink? And like, just that, how much it meant to me, and then getting to do the full circle thing at the end.
Well, better than the alternative. Hey, I was 10. I met you. You were an asshole. That's
exactly.
Could be the other way too.
Yeah.
So you're playing hockey in Calgary. Were you always bigger? Because 6'6". Were you always? Did you have it right from Pee-wee Adam age?
Yeah, I was always pretty big. Obviously hit more of a growth spurt later on, but I was always a tall kid. I was always the kid that I'm sure I laugh now because I see kids on it's called squirt here. I think it's the same as Adam, but kid will come on, step on the ice, and I'm like, oh my God, someone check his birth certificate. I'm like, and then I think back, I'm like, yeah, I'm sure I was that kid that stepped on the ice and they look down the ice and see the mutant goalie at the other end. I was always a pretty big kid compared to everybody else.
It's funny, your dad, being a goalie, you think maybe he'd have, okay, son, you want to be a goalie, but even from the goalie union, he didn't want you to play in net.
No, and I don't blame him. My oldest is a goalie now too. This is his first year. It was last year, and I've lost years off my life off of just 1 year. So he knew something by trying to not get me to be a goalie, because it is a stressful position to watch as a parent.
Yeah, it's hard to hide. So you go, I get drafted to to the Blazers. How does that your Blazer career kind of get underway?
Yeah, that was interesting because same thing. My dad kind of kept me sheltered from the whole like WHL draft thing for pretty much all the way until it happened. Right before it happened, because you do phone call interviews with the teams. And growing up in Calgary, obviously we had the Hitmen there, and I've been to Hitmen games, and to me that was like professional hockey. You go and there's fighting and they're really good, and they got half visors, and like that was like professional hockey to me. And the draft happens at 14 years old. So I went on a walk with my dad one day, and he kind of explained to me, he started explaining to me the draft, and it was like a couple weeks away. And I was like, wait, you mean like right now? Like that was like professional hockey to me. And I was 14 years old, and he's like, yeah, it's coming up. And so he just wanted me to be ready because I was going to have to do these phone call interviews. And I knew I was good, and I knew, because I'd played Alberta Cup, and I'd played on all these teams growing up. But Alberta Cup, I think, at the time was the highest that you got to before the draft. And that's Calgary North, so you're making a team out of one half of Calgary. So, and this is obviously all of Western Canada and some of the states that you're getting drafted out of. So I knew I was good. I had no idea. I don't know if my dad knew and didn't tell me, but I had no idea exactly where I ranked, I guess.
Yeah.
As far
it's
as
funny, kids would be dialed in today.
Oh yes, I know. I honestly had no idea where I fell, and I'm sure my dad had a better idea than I did after talking to teams and stuff, but he didn't let me know. So I did a whole bunch of phone interviews with teams, which again was I think a great learning experience, a great life skill to do that as a 14-year-old, to talk to these player development guys and GMs and go through these interviews. And I remember my mom picked me up from school. I think I had high jump practice or some track and field thing after school. And so she picked me up late, and I remember she pulled up in the minivan, and there was like a homemade poster that says "Go Blazers" on it, and I didn't even clue in. I was like, "Ooh, the Blazers!" Yeah. I knew, like, it clicked pretty quickly after. But That's kind of how I found out. And then I went home and I found I was drafted early in the second round, and I think I was the top goalie to go.
Yeah, might have been.
There was one other kid, Watt was his last name. But
you're not an old guy, but you're kind of in that pocket where the internet existed and it was a thing, but we didn't keep all the records. They're not super easy to find.
But I was one of the top goalies if I wasn't the first goalie taken in the draft, and that was kind of a holy crap moment for me because, like I said, I didn't know exactly where I stood with everybody else. Other than I knew I was a good goalie, but that was kind of the time where I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe I am really good.
Yeah. And you don't often to play in the Dub as a 16-year-old in general. Now you end up going to Camloops. You're there because you had a long Western League career. For a young kid, you've had a lot of moving, but this is the kind of the first one where it's because you not your dad's job, but your job kind of a thing. What's the cutting off of mom's home cooking and leaving home for you?
Yeah, so that was an interesting process too because I ended up kind of getting a warm up to it before because my 15-year-old year when you're too young to play, obviously there was the goalies got hurt a couple times, so I got one call up just over a weekend where I just backed up a couple games, and then one of the goalies actually had a high ankle sprain, so he was out for a good chunk of the year. I think he was out for 2.5 months, maybe almost 3 months of that year. Was a good chunk of the season, and I was up for all of that. So it was just like one day I was like, got called and was like, "You're going to meet the team in Vancouver," but they didn't even know the extent of the injury. And then it was like we were going day to day at first, and I was just gone and staying there, and I didn't care because it was you're 15, like it's fine to be away from home for a week. You're not thinking anything more than that. And then it just kind of became longer. And then all of a sudden they found out the injury was going to be longer. So I was there and for good for the time. And I'd fly home every once in a while and go to school and get my schoolwork and then fly back. Did that a few times. And so it was 10th grade and I was going to 2 different schools but there was no end game for it and like ending timeline. So I was just kind of doing it without really thinking of it. So then I got a little warm up to what it was going to be like the following year. So it made it a little bit easier. And also knowing that I was going to make the team, knowing that I was going to be there, having the time to kind of prepare leading up to it in the summer, knowing this is the day you're leaving. It was still super hard. It wasn't something like I always knew there was never a question. I knew this was what I wanted to do. It was where I was going. So there was never like, I don't know if I want to do this or not. That was never a question. But it was hard, especially at that age. I mean, it's high school with girls and friends and all my buddies are playing hockey together and I'm gone for a couple pretty exciting years of childhood. And that's a sacrifice that you have to make. So obviously you get that with your teammates and all the experiences that you get there, but that was probably the hardest part, being gone for that. And fortunately I had great friends and we had a really good group of friends in Calgary that I still keep in touch with and are friends with. But fortunately at the time it was when MSN Messenger was coming in. And so now there was a easier way to communicate and you could go on and chat with your friends and kind of stay in touch. And it wasn't always needing to pick up the phone all the time. So the communication was there, but I don't know. It was always hard. My parents would come once a month. My friends would visit sometimes. Sometimes they'd ride up with my parents. And so it was always something to look forward to that way. There were definitely in the first year or two, a lot of homesick times where you're just by yourself. And of course you got your hockey and your teammates, but even at school, we weren't overly welcome at the school, which I made an effort to change. And it was by the time we were going out of 12th grade there, we'd made some friends and softened up the hockey player to school thing because it wasn't very good when I got there.
He's by grade 12. You've been at it for a while. That's
it
a long
was
time
kind
to
of
slug
my
away.
third year almost of just it's not a hard concept. Just be a normal person and be kind to people, and people will talk to you. It's not a crazy concept, but then it goes back to the childhood of having moved around a lot and just learning how to make friends and talk to people and just be a normal guy and not have this. There's very standoffish between the hockey players and the kids in the school and hockey players as we are tend to enjoy the conflict and maybe feed into it a little too much at the time. But that was better at the end. But you don't. What I'm saying is you don't get that camaraderie at school, and that was a tough part of it too. But I would always look forward to the trips, and then they were there. And the hardest time was always when they left. And my mom would always whisper to me she'd whisper in my ear and say, "Just give me the word and I'll take you home."
Yeah.
And I'd always kind of laugh and I'd be like, first of all, I don't want to. Second of all, Dad's not taking me home. So
yeah, I've already had one of those conversations with my kid. He was off doing something. I was like, I'll get you a plane ticket right now. No, I'm good. All right.
And you're just hoping they say yes too.
Yeah, I'd be so happy to spend a lot of money on a plane ticket right now.
Yeah.
Now, I'm old enough. I'm a little older than you, probably a lot older, but I covered the Western League for quite a while, and I remember the Camloops Blazers teams that were juggernauts. You did not have any Niedermeyers or Tuckers or Aginlas or Doans on your Blazers team. Those were some lean years, fair to say, as you get to Camloops.
Yeah, it was interesting. We were really good when I got there. So the 15-year-old year that I got called up, they were a really strong team. They ended up losing to Kelowna in the first round, but they were a really good team. And then my 16-year-old year, we had a really good team as well. We had some really good older players. Scotty Upshaw was there, Jared Allen, Shane Morrison. We had quite a few guys that actually went on and played. So my 16-year-old year, we were really strong. And then we kind of just started to taper. Just not quite as strong, worse. And then by the last year was our toughest year. So it wasn't. We definitely weren't terrible by any means, but we weren't a powerhouse. Which it was kind of a good combination because I got lots of work, but we were still competitive and able. I think we made the playoffs every year except for my last year. So we were still competitive and able to win games and compete. But I got lots of work. It was like. Playing on the year Kelowna won. It was like, I can't remember his name now too. I can see him. He had all these shutouts and everything. He got 10 shots a game. Yeah. And so at the end of the day, that didn't help him.
Is that the Kelly Gard era, or is that
Kelly Gard? There it is. Yeah,
go.
Kelly Gard. And his stats and everything. It was like, oh, Kelly Gard, but it's you're not getting any better.
True.
But I had to face Kelowna 10 times a year, and I got better from that. Lots of you going into Kelowna, it was like you're looking at 50 plus.
Yeah, a lot of teams felt that way. You'd see them, you just see them more often than most. But yeah, Kelowna was no fun.
No, we had to play them 10 times a year.
Yeah,
and one game, this was probably my most memorable game. But we were my parents were visiting, and my dad taught me a lot of stuff, all the stuff that I learned growing up playing goal, and then from the time I was like 15 or so, I kind of started to know more than he did, and he knew that. So we didn't really butt heads anymore over anything. He would just encourage me, and so it had been a while since he'd kind of given me crap. And I think it was New Year's Eve, and we played at Lethbridge at home in Camloops, and we lost 4-2, I think. And he kind of ripped into me after the game and told me I was being lazy and my intensity wasn't there. And all this, and I was 19 years old now, I think 18 or 19, and I kind of took exception to it, and I was like, "Screw you! What are you talking about?" So we had this big blow up, and we played Kelowna at home the next day, and I'm going to the game, and I'm rattled and just ready to show him.
Yeah.
And we got outshot 67-17 or 68, and we won 4-2. I think it was 67 or 68. Set a record for saves, and we won the game. And of course, I come out after the game, and I see my dad standing there, and he's got this smirk on his face, and I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah, you're like, see, Dad, I told you so. And he's, hey,
Yeah, and
same
he's
son,
like,
I
"See, I
told you so.
told you
You're
so."
both,
Exactly.
yeah, you're both right. Yeah, those teams, I remember because I was at that time I was working in Red Deer. It's like, well, they got Shea Weber and they got Josh Georges, and I think Spurgeon might have been. Oh, they got a kid
Spurge.
coming in from college, Duncan Keith. I
Yeah,
think
that's
he's
something. Yep.
and
Yeah, so
holy
like,
shit.
so their top three D men are Shea Weber, Duncan Keith, and Josh George. This is junior hockey, by the way.
Yeah,
This is not the
two
NHL. It's
NHL
an
Hall of
NHL.
Famers.
Yeah. So that's their blue line. So have fun getting a 5-on-3 against them.
Yeah.
And then you had Blake Como, Troy Bodie, Jared Spurgeon. Gosh, I can't remember. They had another guy that was like 6'10".
Yeah.
Who
they
was
were.
really good. They had gosh, they had a bunch of guys that played pro. Like they had a really, really good team.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even guys that you realize, oh, you were now I know your name. You were on those Kelowna teams, even maybe we didn't know it
Yep.
at the time. Yeah,
Yep.
they were no fun at all. Now, so the Western League draft maybe sneaks up on you. The NHL draft isn't going to sneak up on you.
No.
You've got to be well aware. What's your draft year like? Nerves, like you say, you're playing a ton, you're seeing lots of shots, you're getting all the work. Any vibes going into that NHL draft?
Yeah, like once the draft came, you have a pretty good idea of where you're landing. At that point, I'd played 2 different under-18 world championships. So you're seeing all the goalies all over the world at this point. And then, there's news articles and talk and all that. So you're starting to see more of it.
Yeah.
So you got an agent and then you go to the combine and you do all the interviews at the combine. So definitely more information. And I was more aware of where I kind of fit in when it came to that. So draft day, you're expected to go first round, but especially being with a goalie, there's nothing guaranteed because there's only certain teams that need goalies. And if the dominoes fall a certain way, you could potentially fall out. So I had to keep that in the back of my mind and just make sure that there wasn't any sort of major disappointment if something didn't happen that way. And so it was just an interesting time through the draft because you're not like waiting on every pick because you kind of know, okay, this team, like it gets to LA was really the first team at 11 that I actually thought I was going to go to LA at first, but they were the first team that was really like a potential
Sure.
that I would get picked at. So obviously was like really nervous for that pick. And then after that, you get a breather for a couple picks. And then Edmonton was the next team up to potentially pick a goalie. Then it was St. Louis who ended up taking a goalie, and then possibly Calgary.
Yeah.
And then Vancouver. Calgary didn't take a goalie, but St. Louis and Vancouver both did. So I was hoping to go to Edmonton. And so it worked out great that way, being from Calgary, and having family in Edmonton and stuff. And so that was the most nervous I was. And I just, it's hard to describe. They start talking and all I remember is hearing Camloops Blazers. I didn't even hear my name.
Yeah.
And I was like doing quick math in my head. I'm like, yeah, okay, it's nobody else on my team. All right, it's got to be me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
that's great.
It's pretty surreal.
Nowadays, there's more teams now too. It's so rare for a goalie to go in the first round, it seems like. And I went back, obviously, you got Montoya at 6, Shorts goes, you go, Corey Schneider, a couple in the early second round. There's however many it was, all by the 38th pick, there was like 6 or 7 goalies taken. So
yeah, it was a unique year. I think it was a pretty light year too for just the draft in general. So that played into a little bit. And then I think just the thought process has changed a little bit. You got to have a pretty big standout. I think Spencer Knight, I know, went first round.
yeah.
I'm trying to think of, I wouldn't know other
Yeah,
guys.
there's still a few, but that was like you said,
you're a handful, but you're never going to get 4 in the first round again. I can tell you that much.
Yeah. So was it Edmonton? Was it just proximity to home? Was it based on the tandem that they had at the time? I could get some work there soon, or what was it about the Oilers?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really expect to get work there soon, and it's funny looking back. Like, I mean, so much changed between the time I was drafted to the time I actually played. I mean, it was Rolly, obviously, going to the Cup Finals, and UC Markkinen and Ty Conklin. And then, I mean, when I come up and played, it was Nikolai Habibulin, who wasn't even on the radar at that
Yeah.
time. So much changes, but no more. It was growing up in Calgary. Flames struggled mightily when I was a kid. So I obviously would cheer for them and go to the games, but there wasn't a lot to cheer for. And so Edmonton was always making the playoffs, and I had family. My mom was born in Edmonton, so I had lots of family and visited Edmonton lots, but mainly watched the Oilers a lot when Cujo was there, and all their playoff series against Dallas and whatnot. So I was kind of a bit of a fan growing up, and cheered for them lots. So, and then just knowing the history of the team and the opportunity to go into a place like Edmonton with how everybody feels about the Oilers there, and being a Canadian team and a Canadian kid, kind of all of that stuff, just was why I was hoping to go.
Yeah.
And they were right in that sweet spot too, of like a good possible spot that I would get taken mid first round.
You never need a lawyer until you need a lawyer, and then you need Mloud Law. They are the Calgary law firm. Calgarians, people that understand how our city works. So no matter what your legal needs are, it's simple. mcleod-law.com, or hit socials at Mloud Law LLP. Peter Klein, you know him as the personal injury guy. Well, he's also your long-term disability insurance claim guy. Make sure you check in with him if you've got an issue collecting for the benefits you've paid for. Shane King, a partner in the Litigation and Dispute Resolution Group. Employee rights, if you've been terminated, make sure you're being treated as the law requires. Shane, always using practical and easy language, no legal mumbo jumbo. It's the Calgary law firm, and the only one you need to know whenever you need a lawyer, it's Mloud Law.
Buddies, want to welcome a new partner to the program, InvestMed, Canada's first and only private medical testing company. Are you like me? You got a little salt and the pepper and it's all kind of starting to... It's okay. It doesn't make you bad. We're getting older every day. All of us, every single one of us. Do you want to kind of know how it's going? I think as men, we're kind of, feel good, rub some dirt on it, that whole kind of thing. Don't you want to know what's going on under the hood? Maybe find out. This is what InvestMed is all about. You can mitigate your risk for developing a serious illness, optimize all aspects of your health. It's the early detection and mitigation of serious and life-threatening problems, if they do exist, in your body. Find out. Take control of your health and future with the most cutting-edge testing options available in 2025. Preventative, proactive testing. Get in front of it. Answers now, not years from now. Take control and put some value in yourself, your long-term health. It's definitely worth this. Comprehensive, proactive screening battery can identify individual health risks, support mitigation of potentially life-threatening stuff like that. You just rest easier knowing what's going on. And if there is something going on, then you tackle that head on and take things into control. Book a 1-hour consultation with an InvestMed physician today for just $199. Find out how to protect your future health with InvestMed.
Well, it's summer, and that means it's air conditioner season. Yes, we don't need that in the winter, but it does get hot here in Calgary in the summer. And here's the deal from our good friends at Crystal Waters right now. 10% off a brand new air conditioner and a year of free preventive maintenance. Crystal Waters is your crystal clear choice for all things residential plumbing, heating, cooling services. We're talking 23 years of experience and over 30,000 projects completed. It's your clear choice for sure. Here's how you get a hold of them. 403-219-4100. Head to their website, crystalclearcalgary.com. Crystal Waters Plumbing and Heating is your crystal clear choice for home comfort. And we're back with more Barn Burner.
Every kid's different and every position's different. I think with net, you don't expect, maybe he's a year or two away. You never know with goal. Who have you got under contract? When is the kid? You finish up your career. You got 2 more years in Camloops. For you, when did you feel like maybe now there's pressure, even though it might not be vocalized, but I should be an option to make the team now? Is it 2 years later? Is it 3 years? When did you feel like I better be ready to contend for a job?
You know what? What's funny is I never felt like there was a training camp that I had an opportunity to make the team until I did.
Yeah.
Just because of the way everything was going, and it was good because that year that I ended up, when Javi Bullen hurt his back and I ended up actually getting called up and playing, that was when I started to get a little frustrated because it felt like, like what's the end game here? Like, why is Delorier just automatically in.
We'll talk about that for sure. But yeah.
And we're getting now to the point where like we're past the development stage. It's like I've had enough time. And so I knew I was going back to Camloops for a couple of years. Then I signed. Then my first year going into pro, that was an interesting camp. I actually played really well at camp and played a couple really good preseason games as well, which I laugh at now because like who gives a crap about
that's all you got then, though.
But right? I can tell you that they were big to me. Those were like Stanley Cup playoff games to me.
What do you remember about them?
I remember I got to play in Calgary. This is the coolest thing. So they had we didn't have an American League team, so I had nowhere to go. So I played all the way up to the very end of preseason until they had to name the roster, until they like actually had to send me away, and they still didn't know what I was going to do. That's when I ended up playing the coast in Stockton. But the coolest thing ever was my last preseason game. We played in Calgary, and we were in Calgary, and then they were doing it after that game. I was going home, so I was just staying at home in Calgary. So I played in the Saddle Dome against the Flames, and this is the year that they were just bringing the shootout in. So they were trying to just practice it regardless of the score. So I wasn't supposed to play the game, and I'm just pumped because I'm on the bench, and it's Calgary, and all my friends are there, and this is super exciting.
You got the best seats ever.
Best seat in the house, and I think I'm so cool until Conklin starts complaining about his groin in between. And I just kept telling myself, I'm like, nah, he's okay. He's okay. Not again, laughing, thinking back on this. It's like, if your groin is even remotely hurt and you're the starting goalie, like you're not, you're done. You're not grinding it out in preseason, but I'm here telling myself, I'm like, he's going to be okay. So we go in the dressing room after the first period. Conks takes his bottom stuff off and he goes back to the trainer's room. And I'm sitting there still in like full denial. I'm like, everything's going to be okay. He's going to be healthy. He's going to go back in there. And I'm sitting and he's still back there. And I'm looking, there's 10 minutes on the clock. And then there's 6 and he's still back there. And I'm still in my head, like thinking he's going to somehow get his gear on in time to go out, which you probably physically couldn't even do at the time. And then McTavish came in he was the coach and he came in to talk. And he walks in the room and he kind of looks around and he's like, where's Conks? And they're like, oh, he's in the training room. And then he just looked at me. He's like, okay, dude, where you're going? And I mean, great. I must have just flushed out, like white as a ghost. And all of a sudden it was like, oh my God, I'm going. Yeah. And not a great start for me. So 0-0 going into the second period. I was obviously very, very nervous. And they scored 3 goals on 6 shots in like 5 minutes to start the second period. Because I remember being in there and doing like math in my head. I was like, I'm going to let in 36 goals in this game in front of all of my family and friends. I was like doing the minutes and the math in my head, like the pace I was on and how many goals I was going to give up. And I was going to have a 13% save percentage and all these thoughts. And then fortunately I settled in after 3 and stopped it at 3. So I had a better end of the second and then had a good third period. But then, and I just laugh at this too. So then we go to the shootout because you do the 3-shot shootout anyway. Well, I got to stop Iggy in the shootout. So Iggy came in the shootout and he made a move 5-hole and I stopped him. And it was like, I won the Stanley Cup. Like I stopped all 3 shooters and we won the shootout. And I was smart enough to keep it contained and not be an idiot and celebrate that we won a shootout, that we actually lost the game 3-0. Right. But I was like bursting inside. Like, I was so excited coming off. I stopped all 3 shots in the Saddle Dome and like life was complete. And then after the game, I knew like I packed up my gear and my parents drove me home from the Saddle Dome back home and all my friends came over and we just got to hang out and like party at my house.
Oh, great.
Right after I won the Stanley Cup in a shootout in preseason.
Yeah.
And great. So that was a really cool memory. And then the crazy thing was then I stayed at home for 2 weeks without skating because they didn't have anywhere for me to go. And the ECHL training camp didn't start until like October.
It's crazy.
So I just was then back home, not going to school, not just like at home hanging out with my friends for 2 weeks, not skating after I just went like.
You just won the cup.
I just won the cup in preseason shootout in the Saddle Dome. And then I went home and like didn't skate for 2 weeks and then went to Stockton for full ECHL training camp, which I discovered when I got there, is an open tryout. So you can literally just show up and try out, which was going from my preseason Stanley Cup to open tryouts in Stockton and the Coast was an interesting change in events there.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that, but lucky you get 2 training camps. Guys would love that. Do probably a rookie camp, and then a full NHL camp. You're playing, and then start all over again in the Coast.
Yep, that's what it was, and so going back to the original question. So played the full year in the Coast. I knew that was what the plan was, and it was good. I got lots of playing time, and it's still good hockey, and it's just seeing shots as a goalie and learning how, obviously it's a little different in the Coast, but playing professional hockey, being on your own, all these things, like you learn all these things as you go.
Men, like full grown old ass men, some of them now.
Oh yeah, there were some 30-year-olds. There were some 30-year-olds on the team. So and so you learn that stuff, and then the next year we got Springfield, so I knew I was going to be there, and Kelly Buckberger was the coach, and he was a big JD guy too, so that was kind of a whole battle there, sharing with JD, with Delorier. So played that year. Then again, next year going to camp, knew Delorier was going to be up. I knew that there wasn't a competition at camp. It was just I was now the starter in Springfield. So then I went and I played in Springfield, and then that was that following year. Then after that, where it was kind of like, okay, I still knew that I didn't really have a shot at camp because they weren't going to give me one. And Delorier was the guy, and Happy Boulin was there. And so then he went back to Springfield, and I hadn't even been on the bench for an NHL game at this point. And that's when it kind of started like, well, what's the end game here? Like, am I going to get an opportunity? Because
he's a couple years older than you at that point.
Yeah. So he was still young too. And it was like, where's the opportunity here ever? And then of course, Happy Boulin got hurt, and same thing. I still got called up. I still was on the bench for like, I don't know, 25 games or something before I saw any ice time. JD just played forever. And then, it was finally I got a chance to get in there, and I wasn't very good. I struggled a lot. I mean, we obviously weren't a good team, but I was a huge jump I wasn't ready for. And it was kind of that, I don't regret anything or because the struggles of that team and how bad we were, and, that allowed them to give me time, because like we weren't trying to make the playoffs. We weren't playing for anything really. So it was like, why not just let them play and figure it out? And so like I think it was after the trade deadline, Tom Rennie came and said, you guys are going to split the rest of the games. You're just going to rotate. Doesn't matter who wins, who loses, you're just going to rotate. And so then that was kind of cool, where it took me a long time to get my first win. And then after that, I think I went 4-2 in the last 6 games, and that really set me up where then that off season, they gave me a 2-year one-way contract, and I'd kind of beat out Delorier during that season. But if we hadn't have been that bad, I wouldn't have had that opportunity, because it took me 11 tries to get my first win. Like nobody's just going to keep putting a kid in there if you're trying to make the playoffs and I'm 0 for, you're not going to keep putting me in there. But fortunately for me, I had the opportunity to grow into being able to play in the NHL with the amount of time that I was given because of this situation.
It's funny because you sit down, it's like anything in life. You talk about a certain time of your life or your career. In this case, your career. It's like, so there was a couple of years there. It's like, that's like a 3-year stretch. I'm in the East Coast League. I was looking at California, Florida, North Carolina, Mississippi. I mean, it's a crazy league. And then you're off to the AHL, which is great, but it's still the A. Those are years of your life. Is your confidence kind of taking a beating? Because you're living in Springfield. It's a long way from home, and also has to at times feel like a long ways from where you want to be in terms of your career. And you're watching, they signed Happy Boulin. Okay, well, I guess I'm waiting a little bit more. And like you say, Delorier's playing, whether he's playing well or not, he just continues to go in the net. There's that uncertainty of wondering, I think it's going to happen. Is it ever going to happen? How unflappable was your confidence then?
Yeah, that's really it. It's hard to keep, like, it took a while for it to become frustrating. But there was times you just see, because guys get, even just players and stuff, they'd randomly get called up for a couple games and then sent down, and they're all kind of getting these opportunities. And then again, it was just always Delorier. Like, it was always him that get called up. And again, like Bucky, I love Bucky. And, I had him in Edmonton as well, but I didn't love him that year at all. He was, JD was just his guy. It didn't matter what happened. And so like that part was frustrating, because then anytime somebody, even just a small injury for a couple games, it was just automatically JD all the time. Yeah. And then the following year just went through the entire year without anybody getting hurt. So there's no call ups. And so again, like I said, I hadn't even touched an NHL bench. And this is now my 4th year playing professional hockey.
A long time.
Hadn't even got a phone call.
Yeah.
And so, like that year it did start to kind of creep in, where it's like when, I was an RFA, going in, I was on my option year, and then was going into another RFA year. And it was like, when's at least a chance to play? But again, looking back, all great things. I played a ton of hockey in Springfield, got a ton of shots, playing 3-3s. I did a fair share of playing all 3 in a weekend. I can't remember the exact number of games I played the one season, but it was like, I want to say 62 or 65 out of like 70 something. So like all of these things, though, they help you learn, and they help you. They're all tools that you get that help you when you get to the NHL, when you finally get to where you want to be. The grind, the back-to-backs. When I got traded to Minnesota here, I played 7 back-to-backs in a row. Yeah. And like, that's unheard of. But I'm just like, I used to play 3-3s back in the day, like 3 and 2.5. We would play 7:30, and 3:00 in the afternoon on the bus. And like, but you learn all these things, and you just, you learn to be mentally tough and to be physically tough, and not complain, and just work and get through it. And all that stuff that you got to do kind of comes back to help you down the road.
Yeah. It's easier in hindsight when you're going to get there.
Yes, exactly. Well, you always have to believe, and I always did. That was probably, and I always say it's like this naive thing that I had since I was a kid. I was going to play in the NHL. Yeah. That's what was happening. And I always think back to my brother. I asked him, I was way too old to be asking this question. I should have known by now. But I was like, hey, Dave, what team are you going to play on when you play in the NHL? He like looked at me. He's like, what are you talking about? He's like, I'm not going to play in the NHL. He's like, you know how hard it is to play in the NHL? And like, it was like caught me off guard, because I was, again, too old to not know this, but I just thought that when you played in the NHL, you just got to pick whatever team you wanted to play on, because that's what everybody got to do. And he's like, I'm not going to play in the NHL. I'm not even close to good enough. And I was like, oh, I am. Yeah. And like, that's kind of how I went about everything. I was just like, I am. And that was all the way through, leading up through junior, through the draft, through my pro years. I just was like, had this naive thought that I knew I was going to play in the NHL. And looking back on it, thank God I did, because if you don't, there's a lot of things that you can think about, and a lot of things that you can worry about needing to fall into place, instead of just going and playing hockey. And really, I was just going and playing hockey. Yeah. And I had this thing that I just knew it was going to get there someday. And man, there are a lot of things that had to fall into place for that to happen, though.
Yeah. And it's that 09-10 season. Javi Bulin is in, but has the back surgery.
Yep.
So then you come in, it's you and Delorier at that point, basically holding the fort. And Pat Quinn's your coach.
I wouldn't call it holding the fort, but it was the two of us. Yes. We were both on the roster.
Yeah. Yeah. You're getting minutes, and you're getting a big paycheck for the first time on a regular basis.
Oh, that was nice. I couldn't believe. I was like, I remember the first time I got called up for like 2 days, and I just couldn't wait to see the paycheck.
Yeah, the per diem's nice. It's every 2 weeks for this. This is
plane
nice.
Ride.
Yeah. So any Pat Quinn stories? It was kind of because you had Tom Rennie, and he's the associate, but Quinn's coming in, and that whole thing. I just remember those Oilers teams. It was a circus every time they came to town.
Oh man, Pat Quinn. He was what a first coach to have. And I mean, Yeah, obviously Pat was getting older at the time that I was there, so I don't know if he was as sharp as when he was. I know he was a phenomenal coach, but I was a huge Pat Quinn fan, so like it was crazy for me, with him coaching the Leafs and the Canucks. Like he was, like I said, I was forced to be a Leafs fan for my brother, and Cujo was there, so I watched so many Leafs games in their playoffs and everything. Pat Quinn was the coach, so for him to be the coach for me, like I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And Pat was super old school, like really old school. So he just, he had his quirks, and I mean, I didn't play at all for like 20 some games. And then the first time I got in there it was hockey night in Canada in Vancouver. And so I just, normal day, I didn't expect that I was going to play anyway. Well, they scored 4 goals in like the first 6 minutes, and Vancouver was good and place was going crazy. My family was there, and I'm just like, oh God. I remember the second goal went in and kind of get like a little nervous pang. And then the third one goes in and I'm like, oh my God, this is like 3 minutes into the game. And I'm like, okay, so he doesn't put me in after the third one. And I'm like, I know if they get another one, I'm going to go in. So I'm sitting there and I'm just like trying to be as small as I can on the bench. And so they score the fourth one. And like, I really don't think he wanted to put me in, but I was just like looking around like this, like,
yeah,
please don't. And then he's just like, Doomer, get in there. And I'm like, oh, I mean, I must have just been as white as a ghost. So that was my first action. And then a little while later, my first start, you think you maybe like the day before, maybe. Like, you never want to give a guy, like, you never want to be like, hey, you're starting next week. Like, there's no point in doing that. Maybe the day before might be helpful, though. So, again, I show up for morning. We do our morning video. I'm already half dressed so that when the video is over, I throw my chest pad on. I'm going out to the ice to do the extra work. It's what I do every day because I haven't touched the ice.
Not playing.
And as I'm walking out, the morning of the game, I'm like almost on the ice, and Quinner like pokes his head out and is like, Doomer, you're starting tonight. And I was just like again, just instant, like so nervous and all these thoughts going through, and like, again, maybe a heads up the day before would have been okay.
Yeah.
Gosh, so many good Quinner stories. We went to it was St. Patrick's Day, and a bunch of us, we were going out to one of the Irish bars in Edmonton, and we're walking in. It was like mid-afternoon or whatever, St. Patty's Day. And we see Quinner walking out, and we're like, oh no. It's like, duck, get out of the way. Like, trying to somehow avoid what we couldn't avoid him. And so we just kind of walk past, and we're like, Pat, how you doing?
Yeah.
And how is it in there? And he walks by and he's like, oh, not a goddamn Irishman in that place. He keeps walking, and then we walked in and we're like, I don't know if he knew that was us. Like, I don't know if it was, if he like,
you're just some guys going to have a drink.
I don't know if he like put it together that we were who we were. Yeah. And we're like, all right, I think we escaped one there.
Oh, you know what? He was just I thought it was cool because obviously he had his career and then was away from the game, then did the thing in Edmonton. And then when he coached the World Junior team, it was that was like found money for him, and that they won and they got the gold medal. You could just see so much joy in him. He knew that the career was basically done, but to win and be around the young kids as opposed to maybe the pro side, it's just feels so much more pure at that level. It was very cool. They have the Hockey Canada, the celebration when they take all the gold medal winning teams. You would know this, and they give them the rings. And to see Pat that night, he was just beaming. But yeah, that is what a guy. And isn't it funny? Your whole life you can't wait to play in the NHL, get to an NHL game. So it's the preseason. Jesus, am I going to get put into this game? This guy's going to get pulled. I'm going to go in. And you're like shit scared to go in when this is what you've been wanting your whole life. Yeah,
exactly. It's you have been wanting it your whole life, and then all of a sudden you don't want it in that moment. You're like, if anything, please don't let this happen.
Yeah. So then you're in. You start in 11-12. You start the season opener. You're the starter now. There's really no doubt. There's no one really pushing whether or not you want, like you say, so you were the goalies at the time, but you were there now. Did it feel like you had arrived? Was it just by virtue of who else have they drafted? What else is around it? Or did you feel like my play and just where I'm at, I'm an NHLer now. I'm here to stay.
Yeah. I mean, I felt like the start, I was an NHLer after that 09-10 season. Then I got a one-way deal. I think, I obviously got better as that season went on, but it was a good going into the summer. We were in the rotation with Delorier, and I got the second last game of the year. We played in LA, and then the next day we played Anaheim, and I got LA, and we got outshot 55-12, I think, and we won 4-3. So that was like my best game of the year.
Yeah.
And then we went in the next day in Anaheim, we lost 8-1. And so that was kind of the final ticket that I punched. And then I got a 2-year one-way contract. So then the next year, that's when I kind of felt like I made it. I knew going into camp that I was going to be on the team. And then that season, but that Habby was the starter, of course, and I was the backup. And I kind of slowly started to chip away during that year of just playing a little bit more. But I think the moment that starting that 2011-12, getting the start in the home opener was kind of it was a really cool moment, because I had kind of chipped away at it the year before, but then coming into camp still like me. I just assumed Habby was a starter, and I was just going to kind of keep working and keep grinding away and getting more ice time. And I had a good camp, and I was prepared for camp, and preseason was good. And we were playing Pittsburgh in the season opener, which obviously was a very tough matchup, and they're important games. And so when Tom Rennie told me that I was getting the start for our season opener, that was a pretty cool moment for me, because that was a choice that I was the starting goaltender at the time.
Yeah. And is that the year, this is 11-12, you get that season opener, but then the start is a little shaky, winning just 4 of your first 13?
No, that was probably the year I got traded. That would have been, no. So that was probably for 13-14.
Okay, because I was just looking, because then you go on a tear, you win 16 of your last 17.
Oh, maybe that was it. I don't know. Maybe
you're
before the maybe that is right.
You're the guy. You've taken over. You've played more in the net than anybody else. You have a great, strong finish to the season, and then it's the work stoppage to start the next season. It's like, so momentum would be good. It'd be nice if we could just keep things on the rails here,
and that was another good one. Season ender too with it. We were in Vancouver. This was going into the lockout. But that year it was a contract year again, and I was an RFA, and so we were playing in Vancouver for the last game of the season. Obviously, we'd been out of playoffs since November at this point, since game 20. But
and this is like Taylor Hall. This is the start of
Taylor
his
Hall,
career, so.
Ryan Whitney, Alashemsky. We still had a bunch of the guys, and so we're in Vancouver. And Vancouver won the President's Trophy this year,
right?
And so obviously we go to Vancouver. It's the last game of the year. Nobody cares. We're just waiting for the summer to start. So some guys go out and they have a night, and you knew it was going to happen. I was like, personally, I'm like, going into a contract year, I'm like, it's one more game. Just like, take care of yourself, go to bed, and finish the game. You can have as much fun as you want after.
Sure.
But I mean, obviously, didn't care if anybody else went out. Just that was my choice. So, and then in the morning, I saw some of the guys, and I was like, oh boy,
fellas,
this was going to be a tough one tonight. And I'm like, last game of the season, contract year.
Yeah.
And so we're at the rink, and it was between Vancouver and the Rangers, I believe, for the President's Trophy. And if the Rangers won earlier on, then Vancouver needed to win to get the President's Trophy. And if the Rangers lost, then Vancouver didn't need to win. And I'm sure they wouldn't, like the Sedins wouldn't have played.
Sure, yeah.
They would have been a completely different story. Well, sure enough, the Rangers win. So I'm like watching this Rangers game, and it's out east. So it was on well before. And I'm watching this Rangers game, like just like hoping to God they didn't win. Of course they win. So I'm like, great. Now we're getting foot on the gas from Vancouver, like out of the gates with a very dehydrated team, and us. And I came to the bench for the first TV timeout, and they were out shooting us 17-3 at the first TV timeout. And I remember Javi was on the bench, and he was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm okay." And he told me after the game, he was like, "That's the first time I ever thought I was going to have to go in just because you were getting so many shots and they were going to have to take you out." Like, I've never been in that situation before. So we ended up losing 3-0, but I had a really good game, so that was a nice lead up. And then I got a 2-year deal for 3.5.
Good deal.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was another you want to go back to like the WHL draft where like I had no idea what my contract was. My agent said north of 3. I was thinking like 1.2.
Yeah.
And he started talking about 3.5, and I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
Per
year?
Yeah, that was crazy. So that was great, and I was super excited for that contract, and then wasn't getting paid it because there was a lockout.
Yeah.
But then I had a great season coming out of that shortened season.
Yeah.
Everything was tracking in the right direction. That was probably my best year, even though it was a shortened year.
Yeah.
And I think I had a .921 save percentage that year.
Yeah. We can't go on forever, but I mean, obviously I could. It's just being close to it. You just remember, well, Dubnyk, first rounder of the Oilers, and he played some games, but it didn't work out, so they moved on. It's like, I mean, your numbers along the way, 921, 914. The last year, the year that you get traded, things didn't go well, and I'm not sure specifically. I could ask you about it, but I feel like Devan Dubnyk was a better Oilers goalie than I remember the stories about him being written were. Is that fair, or what's your takeaway on it?
Yeah, it's great. I go back to Edmonton now, and everybody was like, "Oh, we should have traded you." Like, yeah, you were great when you were here on bad teams, and like, I mean, that's how I felt. My numbers were okay. My numbers were pretty good considering, and I felt like I was getting better and better, and that was kind of the most important thing. Is I felt like I was each season I was growing, I was getting better, all the way to that shortened season where I had a 921. And we kind of pushed for the playoffs that year, like as long as we had, and the entire time I was there. And then all the changes after they fired Ralph Kruger, which I was upset about because I thought he did a great job, and it was the best that we had played as a team and the closest we'd been as a team. And that was his one season as a head coach, and it was the best season we'd had. And McTavish came in as a new GM, and he fired Ralph right away, which kind of, I think, bothered everybody that was there because we all loved Ralph. And again, it was the best season we'd had. It was the closest we'd been as a group. Everything was starting to we were starting to see progress with this young group. And the group of guys that we had. I was still a young goalie. But we had Taylor Hall and Nuge and Everly, Justin Schultz and all this group. And we finally started to see it come together a little bit. And then he comes in and he fires Ralph. So that kind of bothered people a little bit. And then, I don't think Mac T liked me much. I don't think he liked me much when he was the coach when I got drafted. And it was pretty obvious he didn't like me that much when he came as a GM as well, because shortly after that, all the trade rumors started coming up and all these news articles coming out about trying to trade for Bernier, trying to trade for Corey Schneider. And then, it felt like he was trying to trade for anybody that could put on a pair of pads that wasn't me. And it was frustrating and confusing to me because here I am coming off of the best year that I've had in my career with
signed a deal.
Good. And now it's like you're trying to trade for anybody that can play goalie. And then, he tried to do damage control after the trades didn't work and talked to me and said that he was just trying to get somebody to push me. And he likes it, that I like being in Edmonton and he wants me there for a long time. And then I'm like, okay. That's tough.
Actions louder than words. Right.
So, that was like that kind of kickstarted a pretty, not the best narrative, going into that season. And then, there was a lot of expectations for the team because we had taken steps, but then we had a new coach, and you know, I think Dallas is a great guy.
Yeah.
I think that he's a good coach, and everybody that's had him likes him. I don't think that he was himself when he was with us.
I don't either. And I think he's said as much years down
Yes,
the road,
I think he's
right?
admitted that too. And you know, I had a chat with him the day I got traded, and he sat down. We had a great conversation, and I was like, "Why didn't you talk to me like this when I was on your team?"
Yeah.
Like, you know, and but that happens. Those are learning things. But that's why, like, for me, I look at everybody that's played for him before, and everybody loved him, and so that was a learning experience for him, that he tried to be somebody that he wasn't.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, you know, he's gone back to who he is. But
yeah, it does.
You know, we had that, and then we had higher expectations, but we weren't that good of a team, and so we had these like expectations that were above what we actually were.
Yeah.
And then I put all this pressure on myself and was frustrated with what happened in the summer. And the first like 5 games were an absolute nightmare, and my stats were buried in the ground. So I started to play better and actually leveled out a little bit. But I mean, at that point it was over. And, you know, they brought in Brizgalov, and he was playing over me. And you know, I knew the writing was on the wall. I did up numbers myself over this stretch, because again, like I said, those first 5 games were like a write-off for me. So my numbers looked horrendous. And Briz came in and he kept playing, and I went to Dallas and I said, why is Briz playing every game? And I showed him, like, in my last 10 games and Briz's last 10 games. And we were essentially the same. If anything, I had little bit better stats, but negligible, not something that you'd argue, but essentially the same. And it's like, okay, so why is he playing all these games over me when, you know, I'm supposed to be like the guy, like, you just signed him randomly to a 1-year contract.
Yeah.
And we have essentially the same stuff going on. Why is he starting over me? And he didn't have an answer for me. And that's what I knew, it was coming from somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so I knew that the ticket was punched out of town. I just didn't know where yet.
Still a shock when the news comes. It's January 15th of that season. So you get to January and then it's off to Nashville. I would think that's hard. The team that you've been drafted by, and then, like you say, it feels like we were going a direction and then changes are made, and now you're having to fight inside your own home, right? I got to try and convince the coach and the GM, and that heartbreaking might be a little over the top, but it's got to be extremely disappointing.
It was extremely disappointing, even though you knew it was coming. And that was you kind of made a good point there. It was like, why am I trying to? It's just like you're trying to prove yourself over and over and over again. And it was like every year it was new coach and a new GM and a new coach, and it was like, and then, you know, you work all these years to get, and then you have the best year, and it's right back to like, I got to show up and just like start over again and try to impress a guy who obviously doesn't like me. And it was like everything that I'd ever done was thrown out the window, and then it becomes frustrating. But yeah, when that first call happens and I got it, you know, I knew there was a chance, but it wasn't trade deadline or anything, so it wasn't like really, you know, it's coming. And we were in Minnesota at the time, and I got a call from the assistant GM, and he asked me to come to his room, and I was like, oh,
yeah,
like, that's not normal. And so as I'm walking to the elevator, all of a sudden my phone starts to just blow up, and because that's how quickly everything travels. All the news always reports it before you even get a chance to know. So I hadn't even gotten to the assistant GM's room yet to have the conversation, and my phone was already blowing up. I didn't look at it because I knew I'd put it together at the time, but you know, that's when I had the conversation with Dallas. It was a great conversation, went on, but I'll never forget, like, it was really weird because I went and met Nashville and Philadelphia, so everything's a whirlwind, and my wife was at home, and we had our just one son at the time, and we were already on the road, so we were already in the middle of a road trip. And then I just go to Nashville, and it's like you call her and you're like, hey, I got traded to Nashville, like, I'm not coming home.
Yeah,
like, I'm now in Nashville.
Which is now home.
I now live in the US and I'm not coming home. Like, so you got to figure all this stuff out. And then, like, I go to bed and, like, wake up in the morning and, like, forget that you weren't playing for the Oilers anymore. And you'd be like, oh, maybe I can like get traded back or like sign with them in the off season. Like you have all these weird thoughts, and it's just surreal. And it takes a long time to realize it, especially that first time being traded.
Village Honda, day one, an OG partner of Barn Burner, and of course, a proud presenter, for whatever reason, of the Pinder Report. Coming up, August 23rd, it is the 5th annual Honda and Acura Show and Shine. They've got awards for Best in Show, Best Modified, Best Classic, People's Choice, Best Off-Make. And while you're there, you can check out the demo clearance. It is on. Save thousands, maybe up to $4,000 on specific demo models. Just give them a visit. They're in the Northwest Auto Mall. They're your dealership for life. It's Village Honda and villagehonda.com.
Buddies, it's Pinder. You've heard me talking and seen me in action at Atco Field supporting Cavalry FC. But if you've never been, here's the deal. Producer Jack and I and the Elephant and Castle are teaming up for the first ever Barn Burner Bus to the Cavs. Love it. September 20th, we're going to be taking in all the sights and sounds of Atco Field. But we're going to meet at the Elephant and Castle right off 17th Avenue on 4th Street. Before we go, here's the deal. September 20, $45 gets you transportation to and from the game on bus from Elephant and Castle, share plate at the Elephant and Castle, pint of Carlsberg at the Elephant and Castle, not to mention a seat in the Barn Burner section with producer Jack and I to check out Cavalry FC against Valor. Those turkeys from Winnipeg. Going to be a ton of fun. Here's how you get involved. Go to elephantcastle.eventbrite.ca. Search through, find the September 20th game, purchase your ticket there. Again, transportation, food, drink, ticket in the Barn Burner section, and we'll go cheer on the Cavs. An incredible experience to get out there, the bratwurst, the fans, the crazy supporters with the drums and the flags and the smoke, and hopefully a big Cavs W at Atco Field against Valor. Join us for that. And also, while we're at it, here's a look at Cavalry FC's summer home schedule.
There's a saying, it isn't bragging if it's true. So for Bonton Meat Market, when they say 24 consecutive years, Southern Alberta's Consumer's Choice Award winner for best meat and deli, it's not bragging if it's true. And oh, it's true. Bonton Meat Market, 28 Crowfoot Circle in the Northwest. Was talking with Greg Keller the other day, and they are just pumping out the top quality. It's the standard is so high for what passes through that whether it's the meat or the salads, Greg Keller has that place humming. And if it's not AAA Alberta beef, if it's not the best free range chicken and all that, it doesn't get in there. And that makes things a little bit tough. Maybe if you're a supplier, so you better be the best, because if it's at Bonton, people know it's the best. And that's why we go there. And that's why for 24 straight years, they're that Consumer's Choice Award winner. Life is too short to eat bad meat. I say it all the time. 104 years under their belt. They're doing something right. They're doing it all right. It's Bonton Meat Market. They're our favorites. It's not even close. They'll be your favorites too. It's the summertime. Get something on your grill. Get some good Bonton on your grill. No regrets. 28 Crowfoot Circle in the Northwest.
Big shout out to our great partners at Bet365. Always makes things spicier. Best app out there. Whatever your bet, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app. Use the code NATION when you do at Bet365. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. And we're back with more Barn Burner.
A new team, Nashville, here we go, right? These guys, they traded for me. Finally, I've got a team that wants me. It was a short stint there as well. What was the Nashville experience?
Yeah, it wasn't great. They were, I mean, listen, when I got traded, I was like damaged goods at this point. I'd been beaten up pretty bad in Edmonton. My game sucked. My confidence wasn't there. And so going to Nashville, they were competing for the playoffs. So there's a situation where they didn't have time to play me if I wasn't ready to play. And I didn't play very well in my first game that we lost. And then we lost in a shootout in Calgary. Those are the only two games that I played. Yeah. But I don't know. I think Mitch Korn was there, and personally, I think that he wanted to bring me in and fix me, to say that he fixed me.
Gotcha.
And so he was a little aggressive on me that way, confidence wise. And again, I always go back and I'm like, listen, I didn't help myself through any of this because I didn't stop the puck. And if I'd stopped the puck, then things would have been a lot easier. But I felt like Mitch gave up on me pretty quick when he realized that the situation that I was in, instead of trying to help me through it. I feel like he had brought me there to try to fix me, and then kind of, it was like, okay, he's unfixable, and kind of left me alone.
And you see both sides. There's so much pressure to win. Winning didn't happen a lot in Nashville.
Yeah.
So they don't have time for a project, but at the same time, it's 2 games. It's
Yeah.
not really a body of work where you can prove to anybody anything.
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, we had it was like the day after I got traded there. We went in the video room, and he showed me all these video clips, and it was like me getting scored on, and then like another goalie doing like a similar play, but not really the same play, but making the save. And he was like showing me how all these goalies were better than me. And then after that first game, we were obviously, I was not happy. New team, new teammates. I didn't play well. We lost. We were in Nashville at home. We lost. I'm bummed out, sitting in my stall. And he comes over and he starts naming these goalies. And so he'd be like Corey Crawford, Sergei Bobrovsky, quick and powerful. You're not quick and powerful. And so he was going through all these goalies and like saying that they were quick and powerful. And then he'd be like, you're not quick and powerful. And this is like after just like, I'm already like devastated at this game and this loss. And then he came in and did that. And I just remember being like, after a week of being there, I was like, why did you trade for me? I'm like, you traded for me. Like, and you just keep telling me that I suck. Like, I'm confused. I suck. I can't catch the puck. I'm not in shape. I mean, it was like this every day. And I just remember being confused. It was like, I was 26 years old, and I'm like, why'd you trade for me?
Yeah. And then 2 months later, they trade you away. It is all very peculiar. I don't know, like, even today, when you can look back and everything works out fine, it's what were they expecting to see? What more could you, aside from stop the puck, like you say? But if you traded for me 2 months ago and then played me twice, it's just, it's hard to figure, but the game is a funny thing. So, and then it's off to Montreal. Why does Montreal trade for you? Because
that was another confusing one. Obviously, I was just insurance because Peter Budaj was there. What I was told was that they weren't super confident in him as Price's backup, so they wanted insurance for me. So I had already cleared waivers in Nashville. Then they traded for me. So after the trade, I talked to Montreal, and they said, you're going to go down to – I hadn't played for a while at this point, obviously, because there was an Olympic break, too, in there. And so they're like, you're going to go down to Hamilton for the weekend. You got 3-3. You can play a couple of the games, and we'll call you on Monday and let you know what the plan is. That was the last I heard from anybody in the Montreal organization.
Yeah.
So I went down to Hamilton and then waited for a phone call on Monday, and never came. And then I was just in Hamilton, didn't hear from anybody in Montreal for the entire time.
But you were with the Bulldogs, right? Were you playing or what?
With the Bulldogs, yeah, they were out of playoffs too. So it was I played a couple games, and then there was 3 of us down there. Tokarski, myself, and I think it's Meyer was his last name, Swiss kid.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I think there was I don't know, however many games left in the season. The coach came in and he said, all right, you guys are all going to get 7 games out of the 21 games since the trade. You guys are going to get 7 games. And I was like, I just played a back-to-back. And so I had like played my 7 games. There's still 2 weeks left in the season. Yeah. So I was like, so
you're doing math. You're doing math again.
Yeah. I was like, so am I done? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So then I just didn't play for the last 2 weeks of that season. And then on top of all that, then they tell me I'm a black ace for the Canadians for their playoff run. So I didn't see my wife or kid for like 10 weeks at this point. They let me go home for 2 days to Edmonton after the season. And they're like, you have to come back on this day. The day that they made me come back, I was on a plane and Montreal swept Tampa Bay on that day. And I'm like, why did you make me come back? Like, you give me 2 days at home. So I went back and then was there doing Black Ace stuff, skating with 5, 6, 19-year-old, 20-year-old players.
Right? Like it sounds great. It's a playoffs. You're a
no, I'd done that before. I did that with the Oilers in 06 when I was one of those kids, and it was great because it was exciting, and I was 19 years old and all this stuff, and not this time. And so they got to the second round, and it was just grinding, and feel bad saying it, but obviously you're kind of hoping they lose because I just want to go home.
Yeah. And
so they beat Boston in Game 7, and I had enough. I called my agent. And I just said, hey, I'm going home. I'm not doing this anymore.
There's no future there.
No, they don't have a future for me. I'm not an asset. I'm not going to re-sign here. I'm like 4th on the depth chart. Like I'm not going to see any action. So they were good about it. I just said, I got more important things to be doing with my life right now than I got a kid at home and a wife that I haven't been there for the second half of the season. Yeah. So they were good about it. They said, no, we understand. If I went home, the day I get home, Carey Price gets hurt. And everybody's like looking like all of a sudden they look at the depth chart of like who's there, who's going to play. And, Devan Dubnyk's there. And all of a sudden I'm doing like interviews on Hockey Night in Canada. And I'm like, if that hadn't happened, I bet you people wouldn't even have known I was on the roster.
Yeah. Any other team, right? It would fly under the radar, not Montreal.
No, the day after I decided to go home, I was doing phone interviews with Hockey Night in Canada. Then I have to explain to everybody why I went home.
Yeah.
And why I wasn't there anymore. And so it was crazy.
So that lovely deal that you signed, it's done. You were like 5 years NHL, you're an NHL guy. And then it just feels like in the course of months, how do I get back in? What kind of a helpless feeling almost is that off season before you then sign in Phoenix?
Well, I still, again, that naive kind of knowing that it was going to be okay thing just kind of came in, and it was a little scary right towards the start of free agency because I was like, I played 5 years in the league. Like it was one bad year. Like yes, I'm going to have to go get back to playing well, but I was comfortable doing that. But I'm sure there's going to be options. And there wasn't options. A lot of teams wanted to sign me to a 2-way. I just couldn't believe the lack of options that were there. And Arizona was the only team that offered me a 1-way deal. And I knew it wasn't going to be multiple years from anybody, but it was a 1-year deal. They were the only team that offered me a 1-way contract. I think Philadelphia came in late, but I had already agreed to go to Arizona. And there was that scary moment there for a little bit where it was kind of like, oh, wow, this is not what I expected. Teams really have written me off. And so I was happy with that. It was a great spot to go to, get away from all the pressure, go be able to just play hockey and not have all the media attention and focus on it, obviously being in Arizona. And then getting to work with Sean Burke. And it was a place that I was familiar with. I'd obviously played against Coyotes plenty of times, Tippett and the coaches knew me, Berkey knew me. So they had confidence in me from the get-go. I didn't feel like I had to go in and do anything. I just had to go back in and play goal and start having fun and enjoying my time again. And I was able to do that it was a great group of guys there. And then the coaches were fantastic too. And just started kind of growing my game back and getting my confidence back and getting the enjoyment back in the game. And then also getting to work with Sean Burke was great too.
It's funny because I think back to it now, and you, with what you were about to do in Phoenix and then in Minnesota, you really raised the stature of Sean Burke. Not that he needed it. I mean, here's a guy, he was a longtime NHL goaltender. Everyone knew who he was. But with what you two were able to do to resurrect your game, your confidence, your mental state, the whole thing, because then you go to Minnesota and explode. You've probably been asked it a million times, and I hate asking guys questions that get asked all the time, but the relationship, the work, what's done with Sean Burke to basically 180 what looked like where your career was headed?
Yeah, so I mean, in Berkey, will tell you too, it wasn't like this, there's not like this magic recipe that he does, but for me, it was a combination of things for me is one with Berkey was that he knew me, so he'd watched me play my entire career. So I knew he had confidence in me. He's a very calm guy. He kind of gives you confidence without saying anything. But you knew with Berkey too, on the off ice side of it, is that if you did what he was asking and worked and put in the work and that he was going to have your back. And so you always knew, like in the coach's room, and they respected him and what he had to say, but you always knew he was going to have your back. So that was just like the confidence that he gave me without really doing anything was a huge part of it. And then when it came to the on ice stuff, it was very simple stuff. Like he told me, he's like, you need to have your feet set. You need to beat passes on your feet. You need to have your feet set, and then you can stop the puck from there. And wherever that is in your crease, you got to figure out where you can be in your crease in order to be able to do that. Because obviously, if somebody's a crazy good skater, they can be further out in their crease. If somebody can't skate as well, they're going to have to be further back, or depending on the game situation in front of you,
Sure,
you got to be different depths. And so we worked on finding what depth that was for me. I wasn't going to play on my goal line like Mike Smith. Smitty was able to do that because he had such great hands, and then skating wise, I think I skated a little bit better than Smitty, so I could be out a little further. But I couldn't play that deep because my hands weren't like Mike Smith had some of the best gloves I've ever seen in my life.
yeah.
For him to be able to stand on his goal line and just pick pucks off was mind blowing. But it was just finding that spot where I could be in all these different situations where I could beat passes and beat plays on my feet. And that was kind of the base of what we started to do. And then, we really just it was just repetitions. Like we did the same stuff every day, and it was just simple, like pass here, push, stop, pass across, push, stop, shot. And it was
like you say, none of that is
over and over.
Yeah, like none of that's revolutionary. It's the rebuilding of your mental state and your confidence. Right?
Yes.
Just feeling like you are appreciated and you're in a good spot. That's for anybody in any walk of life. That makes a huge difference. And then were you sad when you find out it's ending in Phoenix because it's finally starting to go well? You're feeling good. Is this another trade where I'm gonna go somewhere and not be appreciated and watch things spiral again?
No, I was excited. It was funny because going into that season with Arizona, I was like, I kind of changed my mindset a little bit, and I just wanted to enjoy my time in the NHL and just be grateful that I had a spot in the NHL, and maybe accept that maybe not that I couldn't play, but maybe just business wise that time had passed that I wasn't going to get a chance to be a starting goalie anymore because I was 28 years old, and somebody's not just going to jump and necessarily give me a chance. So I just kind of had this attitude of like, I'm just going to enjoy every time I get a chance to play. And if I got to be a backup for the rest of my career, I'm going to be happy that I'm in the NHL. And so went in with that, and it was great. And it took the pressure off and made it easy, and it was enjoyable and all this stuff. But then it's like you start to play and you play well, and then you play a couple in a row. And then next time it's like 3 in a row. And then the itch starts to come back. And then it's like, well, no, I'm not okay with just being a backup. Like you start to get the itch and you want to play. And then there were a couple kind of talks with my agent about teams kind of looking around. Nothing that serious though. And then it kind of just happened. And again, I remember it was more having to call my wife again and be like,
sure,
I'm leaving again. Like it just felt like it had just happened a year ago. So that was
5 teams in just under a calendar year, right?
Yeah. And so that was the hard part there. But then going to Minnesota, just like that's what was kind of great about that situation. I just say it was kind of like the perfect storm of going in. And like I was just playing with house money at this point, like from where I was going into the season. Mike Smith's there. Like I didn't know if I was going to even get 20 games with, fortunately for me, he had an off year and was struggling. So it allowed me opportunity to play. But going into the year, I went from, I don't even know if I'm going to play 20 games. Now going into Minnesota, every game I get is a bonus. And I also going to Minnesota, like I knew they were a really good team. So that just wasn't playing well. Like I played
Yeah.
against Minnesota tons. Like this is a really good roster that's just like really struggling right now, and the goalies are having a tough time. So it wasn't like going to a shitty team trying to make them good, which I don't think anybody can do. You can obviously make them better,
Yeah.
but this is going to a really good roster and an opportunity to play for a good team that just happened to be struggling. So it was kind of like bonus time. So I didn't go in there and like look. I think they had a 2% chance of making the playoffs.
8 points out, right? When you
Yeah.
get there,
Yep.
8 points out of the playoffs. And I remember just being in the media. It was like, oh, Minnesota, a depth move. But you, because of injuries and that, you are kind of the number one. You're going into play. There's no way no one could have expected how much you were going to play a record 38 in a row.
Yep. Yeah,
Not
it was.
bad.
And again, that was the thing. Like you almost have to, like if somebody came in like you're going to start the next 38 games and you guys have a 2% chance of making the playoffs. Like if all of this stuff was like in your head playing these games, like that doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
But I went in and was like, I had no idea how much I was going to play because they had Backstrom and Kemper, and they were just like they played very poorly, and which is what made them make the trade, and not like there was 3 goalies on the roster. So I was just like, I knew they were going to give me a chance to play because they wanted somebody else to be playing. And so the first 2 games were great, and then I lost a couple, or I lost one.
The first one you get a shutout over Buffalo,
Yeah.
right?
And then we beat Arizona 2-1. Then I think we
Yeah.
lost 4-2 to Columbus. And then then it was a back-to-back Columbus at home in Detroit. And I didn't play very well in that one. I got pulled in the second period, but we ended up losing a shootout. So we still got a point out of that one. Then it was the All-Star break. So I went back to Arizona to get all my stuff and kind of just regroup, and everything's been a whirlwind and everything. And then going back and coming out of the All-Star break is when I really kind of took off. I knew I was going to be starting out of the All-Star break. And I think we started in Edmonton actually, and started that one. And then I really started to like really play well, and we really just started rolling. And then it was just like, it was a week, and then it was 5 games, and then it was 8, and then it was 10, and there was a few back-to-backs in there. And then it got to the point where every game mattered so much, and we needed every single point. And the longer it went, the longer the other guys hadn't played for. And there was no time to put in a guy who hadn't played for a month and a half into a game that we like had to win, and we were winning every game. So it was just like, I don't know, it just happened without ever really thinking of it. And then that on top of having 3 goalies on the roster and not needing to practice, I never had to go on the ice on non-game days because we had 2 goalies for a full practice. So I only practiced like twice between I don't know, end of January and like the middle of March. I only practiced twice on non-game days. I would just do this because we play 4 times a week pretty much. I do the same thing. I play the game, come in the morning, wouldn't go on the ice. I just do off-ice maintenance stuff. Next day, pregame skate, play. Next day, go to the rink. Like I was always at the rink all the time, but I never had to go on the ice and practice, which is, you can't play 38 games in a row and be taking missiles in practice, like both mentally and physically going down and getting hit by pucks, just seeing pucks flying at you on days that you don't need to. But you can't always do that because you can't have full practice without 2 goalies. So I was fortunate enough. They had 2 NHL goalies to practice when on off days, and I didn't have to go on the ice.
It's a movie, right? It's because here's a guy, highly touted guy, 1st round pick, and then the wheels kind of come off and it's maybe over, but then all of a sudden, and everything feels like, I was saying, like that 3-year stretch feels like, it happened so fast. 27, 9, and 2. You showed up, you took over the net, and you didn't give it up, and you make the playoffs. It's truly, it's like a Disney movie or something.
Yeah, I mean, like in 365 days from, I mean, you can pick all the parts. The crazy thing is actually I got traded on January 15th from Edmonton. We were in Minnesota staying at the St. Paul Hotel.
Yeah.
I got traded on the 14th to
1 year later.
1 year later, 1 year later, exact. So on January 15th, I checked back into the St. Paul Hotel as a member of the Minnesota Wild. Exactly 1 year later, but then I go back to the summer too of having one one-way offer, not knowing if I'm going to be playing in the NHL anymore. And 365 days later, I was at the NHL Awards nominated for the Vezina, 4th in Hart Trophy voting, and getting the Bill Masterton Memorial Trophy all within a calendar year.
It's such a cool story that, probably you don't do it because no one would believe it. It's too ridiculous to put on paper. And not a bad, you talk about guys having in a contract year, you try and perform well. Not bad, son. Not a bad year to be a Vezina nominee and in 4th in Hart voting. A nice fat contract from maybe get a 1 year to a 6-year deal.
Yeah, and it was finally, that job security finally, because I'd just been doing 1 and 2 years. So that was a pretty crazy feeling, and just it was a special time in Minnesota too. So, it was a place that I was excited to be. I didn't want to go anywhere else. I wanted to stay in Minnesota, and it was tight. I mean, we were down to like pennies in the cap. That's why it was difficult to do. It ended up being a 6-year deal anyway, because they couldn't do, it was probably the realistic deal that we had was $5 million for 4 years. They couldn't do that. They didn't have the cap. Like it was down to that cap, because they had signed Granlund, I think, and Coyle and Niederreiter, I think, were all needed to be re-signed as well. And so that's when the idea to stretch it out, to shrink it, to do the 6 years, I think at 4.33, to get it down. That's why it ended up being a 6-year deal, which was, it was very exciting. And then again, unique challenges after that, because then it's like, then there's this new challenge where you go into camp, and yes, you have the job security and everything, but now it's like the season before, it's all this bonus time. It's
cute, right? Oh, look, he's winning all these games.
Now you're going to camp. Now you're expected to do this, and you're expected to do it all the time. You're expected to do and if you're not, then people are upset. And so there's a whole different mentality, and that's why you see, I see guys where I got time for him. You got to understand, like, it's a different pressure. Like, look at Jeremy Swayman, and he comes in and we're all human beings. Like, that's the same thing with Sway. Is he's an incredible goaltender, but he's playing with Allmark, and he's got a nice little security blanket there. They're 1-2, they're buddies, everything's going good. They're two guys, they're a pair, and now he gets this big contract, and now he's the guy. Yeah. And he's by himself, and now he's expected to do all this. This isn't like, oh, the 1-2, everything's great, everybody's playing well. Now it's just a different pressure, and it's not that you can't handle it. It's that sometimes it just takes a little bit to adjust to it. Yeah. And it took me a little bit coming out of that to get back to a high level. Just I was putting a lot of pressure on myself, and ended up getting there. But I look at Swayman, I feel the same thing. Like, it's not that he can't handle it. It just takes a little bit of time to adjust to it.
Yeah. You did get there, though. It's 6 seasons in all in Minnesota. And then as it happens, players get to the end of their career, and, it's father time, as they say. He's undefeated. But I think there was maybe potential for skeptics to say, well, now he's got the big, like you say, he's got the big money deal, and he's good for short spurts. But you were an all-star the next year. You continue to play well. You're right there with either number 1 or 2 in all-time Minnesota Wild goalie records. You're one of the greatest goalies in franchise history. Why did it finally, when you look back, is it the market? Is it maturity? Because you're the same guy. The pads, for the most part, are the same. You put them on, same one goes in the same leg, right? But now here you are, you finally arrived, and you're a bona fide NHL star.
Yeah. Again, I think it's a lot of things go into that. I learned a ton, and changed my game. Like, again, going into that season in Arizona, learned some stuff in the summer, and then continued to learn that as well, as far as head position, head tracking. I continued to learn that throughout to the end of my career, which is a big part of that. But again, Minnesota's a good hockey team. And it's a great city. It's a great state that loves hockey. We still live here now, but finding my game, getting to play, doing that 38 games in a row, and then playoffs and all this stuff is like, you take it all in and you learn stuff and you grow and you get better, and your game grows and changes along the way without you even realizing it. So that stretch of playing all this, one, it's high pressure hockey. Two, you got a good team in front of you. You start to trust everything. All this stuff happens. And I was growing my game during that stretch without really thinking about it that way, to where it was a great fit, and my game had grown. It wasn't, I didn't just magically become who I was playing in 3 All-Star games, playing 65 plus a year. All that happened as I grew, as I started in Arizona and got traded to Minnesota, and all the games I played, I grew into that goalie. I didn't just discover him. It was everything that happened beforehand.
And now I would guess when you get why are you still in Minnesota? You probably get a pretty nice house after you sign a nice big deal. You might want to stay there. You got kids, you got the boys on the go, and you have a unique perspective to be able to talk to not just kids but players of any age, really, about that mental aspect. That failure doesn't mean it's over. It can just be fuel if you use it correctly. What are the things that you do and try and help other players and other athletes with that mental side?
Well, I have my kids, obviously, that I get to work with, and I actually just started a new program called Dubnyk Development, and that was kind of the lot of thought that went into it. Was that part of it? It's a mentorship program that kind of covers everything from on ice to off ice, and everything that comes with being a goalie. I did a video. It's very video heavy. There's 2 different programs. There's a local program for kids that are in Minnesota that I can go on the ice with, but I also wanted to create a remote program that I could do with anybody in North America. And really, there's no real age thing other than I wanted to work with Pee Wee and higher, just because of the concepts I'm giving the kids, and also being able to do video and be able to translate that onto the ice just through video. Obviously, as you get to a younger and younger age, it becomes a little more difficult to do. So I wanted to try to find that age, but so with the on ice and the video stuff, but everything that comes along with being a goaltender, how to practice, how to get the most out of practice, how to be a good teammate, how to deal with stuff in the dressing room, how to deal with all of these pressures, and all of this stuff that I went through that we just talked about, learning how to navigate this stuff and not just experience it, but come out at the top. And I tell people I've been through just about every up and down you can imagine in a career, from junior World Juniors to first round draft pick, to starting in the East Coast League, to being an NHL starter, to being a third goalie in the minors, to literally choosing to go home from the Montreal Canadiens. I've been everywhere and navigated all this. I felt everything that you can feel, and I want to be able to help other people go through this process. Obviously, every journey is different, but to be able to not just give the kids the on ice stuff, because I can provide that as well, and that's a big part of the program, but to have it a full mentorship program and deal with all this stuff and help the mom and dad, help the families understand what they're going through, just everything that comes with being a goaltender. I wanted to create this unique program that I'm only taking 8 to 10 kids on, because it is a full program that I want to be able to give all my time, and I'm really excited to get started with it.
That's cool. So I feel bad. I bet you need a drink of water. So
I know. I don't know what's going on here.
I knew it was going to go this way. It's just such a cool
talking
story.
So much.
I got it. Now, just so where can people find more info on the Dubnyk Development?
It's dubnykdevelopment.com. So you can visit the website. I worked hard on the website to try to explain kind of exactly what the program is. But if you get on there and read everything, there's an application page. Everything comes directly to me. It's me and only me. And for the people that apply, I schedule a phone call, go over the program, everything that comes with it, and just kind of what we explain there, and more about the head tracking and all this stuff. And I know it works, because I did a video program with the guy that came up with the head tracking technique the last 6 years of my career. So I've done it through the video. I know that it works. you know, and I love just getting to work with all different types of goaltenders as well. That's one thing I like to really push, is working with kids' strengths and understanding that everybody stops the puck differently, and not trying to teach every kid to stop the puck the exact same way, because we're all built differently. We all see the game in front of us differently, and our bodies move differently. So every kid can stop the puck their own way, as long as they're stopping the puck and understanding and just getting the most out of each kid. So apply on the website, DubnykDevelopment.com. Go check it out. It took me a long time to get that thing done, but I think it looks pretty good. And it can be, the remote program can be anybody in North America. That's why I thought it'd be cool to open that up to maybe some people back home as well.
Very cool. And not a lot of guys would necessarily care to do that. Once the career's over, they could just kind of just fade away or do whatever they want. That you want to give back is very cool. You've been doing some media work. I know you were doing stuff with Oilers Nation guys, with the Nation Network. You've always been very good speaker in terms of that. Are you enjoying that part of post-career?
Yeah, it's been great. I started doing stuff with NHL Network and then didn't do much of that this year. And then I kind of started to miss it a little bit. So the thing came up with Oilers Nation. It worked great. It just started with a couple weekly segments, and then wanted to expand on it. It's been a blast. We got the Ask Doobie show now, and what a fun ride it was in playoffs. They asked if I wanted to do pre and post, and I said sure. I didn't know what I was getting into, and it just was so much fun to be able to go through that and kind of like be invested and be a fan through it. I mean, I couldn't tell you the last time that I did anything like that, watching Stanley Cup playoffs that wasn't your own team, where you actually like really cared that much about the game. So it was so much fun to do, and just be like emotionally invested in a team. Was really cool. So I've enjoyed that, and I'm hoping to maybe get back on NHL Network next year as well, and continue to do that. And that's a nice thing. I can do both of these things as well. But just working with the kids as my kids get older. My oldest is a goalie now, and being on the ice and working with younger goalies, it's just I realized how much I enjoyed it and how much I love helping the younger kids, and that's where the idea for this program came.
Well, I know we were very excited with the run too. We were cheering very hard here in Calgary, a certain way. You know, we had a few different teams to cheer for along the way, but it was quite a ride. I appreciate your time. I felt like I was going to end up going along with you, but I do appreciate it. It's awesome to see how this ends. Just July 4th, 2015, we signed the big deal. What happens that day? I'm always curious when guys get their nice UFA July 1 deal. In this case, it was July 4th. But what does Devan Dubnyk do that day once the ink's dry?
I didn't do a lot that day. It was a relief more than anything, because it was like leading up to it was like, oh, of course I'm going to sign in Minnesota. Then it was like, can we? And so it was really tense. And then you start thinking like, well, what if I go somewhere else? Where would I go? And then the whole like moving thing comes in again. I was in a grocery store. I was grabbing a couple things in Kelowna. I was by myself. I just ran down the street, and the text came through that it was done. So I just remember calling my wife. I mean, like, it's done. Yeah. Was like, there's no celebration. I had no one to like hug or high five or anything. I was by myself in a grocery store. Yeah. It's like holding a jar of peanut butter. Yeah. Just signed a $26 million deal.
Go back and get some ice cream sandwiches to celebrate or something. Yeah. Everyone's got a different story, but it is all's well that ends well. Very cool story, dude. Thanks for all your time. Love the story and love what you're doing to give back to the game. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.